The broadcast of the regular meeting of the Charter Commission Government Structure Work Group will now begin.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this virtual meeting of the Charter Commission's Government Structure Work Group. This meeting includes the remote participation of members as authorized under Minnesota Statute Section 13D.021 due to the declared local health pandemic. The city will be recording and posting this meeting to the city's website and YouTube channel as a means of increasing public access and transparency. This meeting is public and subject to the Minnesota Open Meeting Law. For the record, my name is Greg Abbott. I am one of the co-chairs of the Charter Commission's Government Structure Work Group. I will now call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to call the roll so that we may verify the presence of a quorum.
Commissioner Ginder.
Present.
Commissioner Mutchie.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commission Chair Clegg.
Here.
Co-Chair Garcia.
Present.
Co-Chair Abbott.
Here.
There are 6 members present.
Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. We will now proceed to our agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access to the city's Legislative Information Management System, which is available at lims.minneapolis.mn.gov. Commissioners, the agenda is before us. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the agenda before the clerk calls the roll? Hearing none, I'll have the clerk call the roll on the motion to adopt the agenda.
Commissioner Ginder.
Aye.
Commissioner Mutchie.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commission Chair Clegg.
Aye.
Co-Chair Garcia.
Aye.
Co-Chair Abbott.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
The motion passes and the agenda is adopted. As you can see from the agenda, our item is further work on the government structure amendment language. We have some amendments that we have held over from the last meeting that the authors have graciously dealt with some of our issues, and we have some new language to discuss. Let me just say at the outset, the concept I think we have is that this is the last meeting in which we are going to consider amendments. And I believe that we should, once these amendments are dealt with, we will have a final document that we then can present to the overall Charter Commission. And my intent would be to have a short meeting on Thursday where we can have the final vote to send this up to the overall Charter Commission. And I think the only thing that we need to do between today's meeting and Thursday's meeting is check for typographical errors or anything technical that we might need to get fixed before we send it up to the Charter Commission. Although I would point out this is not a final action that adopts anything. The Charter Commission itself can certainly fix any grammar or language issues that might crop up or that have not been noticed to date. So, and I should say before we proceed to the actual amendments, is there any discussion on that? I believe some of the issues that we raised at the last meeting got solved. So if anybody's got any issues that aren't on the agenda, that aren't in the amendments we're considering, I'd like to hear them now. All right, excellent news. I think we're in sync here on our plan. I think at this point, a motion would be in order to adopt, as it was posted to the LIMS as part of our packet for the agenda. We've got Amendment F, Amendment G, and Amendment H. I think a motion to adopt one of these amendments would be in order.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Chair Clegg.
I move to adopt Amendment F.
There's a motion moved and seconded to adopt Amendment F. Is there any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Ginder, you've got your hand up.
Just briefly, Mr. Chair, this was my idea. The idea is simply to help delineate the difference between the executive function that would be part of the mayor's purview and the legislative function of the city council. This language is common in most charters that we see. And I think it really should be relatively non-controversial. That would be my hope anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on adoption of Amendment F? I don't see any comments. I agree with Commissioner Ginder. This is fairly straightforward and I think a very appropriate amendment. Hearing no further discussion, I think a roll call vote on Amendment F would be in order. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion.
Commissioner Ginder,
Aye.
Commissioner Mecci,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commission Chair Clegg,
Aye.
Co-Chair Garcia,
Aye.
Co-Chair Abbott.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
And the motion is adopted and Amendment F is now included in our proposal. I think a motion now would be in order to adopt Amendment G or Amendment H. Is someone, Commissioner Ginder, your hand is still up?
Well, I will move Amendment G.
Commissioner Ginder has moved Amendment G. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Chair Clegg. It's been moved and seconded. We have any discussion on Amendment G? I know that the auditor language, and this was a subject of some work over since our last meeting. Commissioner Ginder, do you want to briefly describe some of the work you put into this amendment over the last 4 or 5 days?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The amendment covers both the city auditor and the city clerk. Probably the most difficult language that we're dealing with currently is the city auditor language, in which we've tried to maintain the auditor's independence while still keeping it within the oversight purview of the city council. So I know that the city auditor still, I think, has some concerns about the language. I think particularly in the view of whether he has oversight over the city council itself and the impact of that on his independence. I believe there's some thought from the city auditor, and I hope not to misstate his concerns, is that if he is to try and oversee the city council, which is in a sense his boss, although once removed, that impacts his independence. And typically the city council would be audited by, for example, the state auditor or something like that. That's what I have for comments right now, but we may want to hear from the city auditor to see if he has any further concerns.
I know the city auditor is with us. Do you have any comments?
Hello.
Yep.
I'm Ryan Patrick. I'm the city auditor. I think Mr. Ginder accurately stated that concern, but I think the way to mitigate that would be, even with jurisdiction, to be able to contract with an outside vendor or use the state auditor. I think we could solve that problem via ordinance or with our own actions. It doesn't necessarily have to be in charter.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on Amendment G? I'd only say that the language on council resources, the early part is, I think the language is very good and consistent with some of the discussions we had previously. That was one of my concerns. Without hearing any further discussion, I think I would ask the clerk to call the roll on adoption of Amendment G.
Commissioner Ginder,
Aye.
Commissioner Mecci,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commission Chair Clegg,
Aye.
Co-Chair Garcia,
Aye.
and Co-Chair Abbott.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
And Amendment G is adopted and included in our proposal. The last amendment we have in front of us is Amendment H. I think a motion to add Amendment H would be in order.
So
So
moved,
moved.
Ginder.
Second, Clegg.
Second, Mechie.
We have a second and a third. Is there any discussion, having been moved and seconded? Do we have any discussion on Amendment H? I think just for the record, we found this was in response to a comment by Commissioner Schwarzkopf, and it seems to be a somewhat a redundant or obscure provision in the existing charter that we thought we'd just clean up as part of this amendment process. Hearing no discussion and with no hands raised, I think it would be in order for the clerk to call the roll and adoption of Amendment H.
Commissioner Ginder,
Aye.
Commissioner Mechie,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commission Chair Clegg,
Aye.
Co-Chair Garcia,
Aye.
Co-Chair Abbott.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
And the motion is adopted and Amendment H is included. That, I think, covers the text of the agenda as is. Commissioner Chair Clegg has got his hand up.
Thank
ahead.
you, Co-Chair Abbott. I was just responding to your earlier point on Thursday's meeting that I think the motion on Thursday would be a motion to forward this to the full Charter Commission with a recommendation for adoption and that the Charter Commission hold public hearings during the month of March.
Without objection, we will put that as the item on the agenda for Thursday's meeting. Anybody else have any comments or questions? I think we're 12 minutes in. This might be our shortest work group session ever. Well, very good. I think we've accomplished quite a bit today, and I hopefully will have one short meeting on Thursday to formally send this up to the overall Charter Commission. Not seeing any other business and having completed the agenda, without objection, we stand adjourned.